They say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. But whilst it does feel like I do seem to spend a lot of my time making videos about light pods, I can, this time, absolutely, definitely guarantee this is the last time I'm doing it.
Never again.
So, to the surprise of absolutely no one who's watched any of my videos in the past, you will now see me covering the expanded foam with tape before we fiberglass over the top of it. Stopping off on the way with some very careful measurement to make sure everything is equal. One thing I did notice as I was putting the tape on is that there was quite a sharp edge between the light pod and the wing itself. So in order to smooth that out, as fiberglass does not like sharp corners, I added some extra filler. This is of course purely temporary and won't form any part of the final moulded shape. After that was done, it would then be a case of sanding it down to make it completely smooth. So, cue the montage music.
Tell me how you sleep at night with all the things you've done. Maybe it's just gin and justifications. Tell me how you pray to gods whose hands are red with blood. As pretty as you are, it's pretty sad what you've become. Don't try to come and save my soul. Don't try to pray to bring me home. It's the last time you'll see me, last time to God. You're beautiful, you're sick inside, and I'm not. Tell me how you do it. Maybe
I'm not sure what's worse. The fact is you've just spent a minute and a half of your life that you're not getting back watching a man stick tape on his car, or the fact is I spent a couple of hours doing it. Anyway, not to worry. Here's me now sticking fiberglass all over the top of it. The intention here is not to actually create the full final thickness, but really just a starter that I can use to prise these pods off the car eventually before we then glue them back on and then add the thicker layers later. What you'll see me doing here is, having done the first layer of fiberglass, is then to give everything a quick sand over before I do the next layer. The reason for doing this is it's actually very easy when applying fiberglass to leave the odd strand sticking up. And if you then apply another layer over the top without removing this, you end up with a lot of air voids between the different layers. On with the next layer, and I think 2 thicknesses should do for what I want at this stage. In case anyone is interested, I'm using a low odour fiberglass resin and a medium speed catalyst. Typically, at this time of year, with the amount of catalyst I use, the fiberglass resin will go off to the degree that I can sand it again in about 30 to 40 minutes. That was as much as I managed to get through on the first day of this light pod extravaganza. But the next day, before I got on with the entertaining work of trying to get these light pods off the car, there was one very, very important step left to do. I needed to ensure that having got the light pods off the car, that I could get them back into exactly the same positions they came from. So to do this, I simply drilled some holes so I could put in some self-tapping screws. With that done, it was then a case of breaking out every flat-bladed screwdriver I had, a hammer and a large length of metal in order to prise the pods off the car. With that all done, I was then able to trim the edges of the light pods with the angle grinder and then place them back on the wings of the car. And fortunately, having remembered to drill those holes earlier, they dropped right back into place and I could then self-tap them to the wing. And there you go. They actually fit perfectly. So next time, we'll need to remove the foam core from underneath and fiberglass them permanently to the wings.